the even most basic things of what is reasonable. What is a reasonable level of us to be involved in day-to-day decision making, or you know, and we have differences about that, and we can continue to have differences about that. But I think we need to have those conversations and some shared understanding, because we haven't and we don't. And maybe that should come from a president. Okay, maybe we've just been lucky enough in this organization in the past. Not that everyone has thought the same, but there has, either by osmosis or by just plain luck, that everyone had a shared understanding of all those things that we don't clearly have a shared understanding about today. And I think that we're starting to identify some things, some personal things, some process things, some respect things, some diving into detailed things. And I think I feel very strongly that we need a professional intermediary. We need a professional to facilitate that discussion process.
Yeah, and I agree with you in the sense that I would love, I'm a rule person, I would love for us to set some policies and processes and define them better in our policy manual on how things get on the agenda, so that you don't have this constant conflict of feeling like maybe there's like, you know, you're not getting your voice heard. But in that, I welcome, and that's why I want the village president there too. But, and it's not that there's going to be another election. That person will be here for 3 years unless they retire. The election isn't for another 3. So it wouldn't be every year. And I'm not saying every trustee, just that position. But most importantly, why I say a better scope, if the intent is to say, I mean, I'm elected. If the people I'm representing don't think that I'm doing what they perceive as appropriate, the level of detail that I'm asking, I'm not going to be elected again. That's the benefit of being elected. You're representing the residents. And if I feel there's not one professional that I'm going to sit with that's going to say, you know what, you shouldn't be asking those questions. You need to limit your time. You shouldn't be spending that much time reading a packet. I'm not going to change unless the residents who I represent tell me that. So I just don't want to waste our money if that's the intent of saying, I love more discussions like this. I'm hearing you. I'm listening. But I just don't want to waste the money on, if it's process, I think the village president should be there. If it's personality, then I'm going to be elected out. I'm not a hired staff person where you send them to some training so that they can.
Well, no, but there's a third option. You're saying if it's process, great. If it's personality, then I'll be elected out. No, because quite frankly, I'm sitting here thinking, do I want to run for re-election in April? It's a personal decision. Well, quite frankly, if this is going to continue to be a screwed up board, no. So it's not I'm going to be elected out. All of us might choose not to continue. So in that regard, I totally disagree with you. That I'm going to leave it up to the electorate. No, I have a lot to say with it, because I got to say, put my name on the ballot before the electorate gets a choice. So I don't think that that's an automatic thing. So I think the discussion that we're starting to have right now is an indication that we need to continue the discussion, and we need to have a professional facilitator that's been there that can quarterback us. And I would like to recommend that maybe we bring this back.
I don't feel ready to take that step.
I'd like to use an example that could cost the taxpayers some money, and forgive me, but we have had board members do an open records request on our own village without letting the rest of the board members know why they were doing that. So as a process and procedurally, I would think we would work within the organization if there's something we're looking for, but I was never asked or told, for that matter, that this is going to happen. And this costs staff time, it costs all of us, our village, a lot of money. More money than this costs.
Okay, but
and excuse me, I'd like to talk. So I agree with Trustee Zovik. We all could do better. I could probably do much better right now. And if we don't want to do better, then that's one thing. But I think that if we're here, we've made a commitment to the public. Yes, we can be elected out. We've had people from the public say, you guys need to start working better together. It's kind of embarrassing. I mean, we've had this. So there's been recognition from outside. And quite frankly, I hear what you were saying, Trustee Menta, about, I know there are plenty of us on here that have been talked about and, how should I call it, summarized,
in a letter
or online, or
to the whole village.
So, anyway, trustee McKay has had her hand up. I see you as well, trustee Rozak. I love this discussion. Go ahead.
I agree that trust is a really big issue, and I definitely had a lot of trust issues that I think I've made some progress on, but I clearly need to do more work as well. And I would be, in preparation for whenever, if we do something like this, I would be willing to meet individually, for coffee, which it would cost a lot less than $1,000.
I drink really, really good coffee.
It's true.
You can buy your own.
But yeah, I wonder if that would be just a good place to start in terms of just clearing up anything that we can that opens up a possibility for us to look at more, comprehensive issues around the organization. So is that something that everybody would be willing to do before making this decision?
I would love to meet with the president for coffee, if it starts at the top, but yes, I would.
And that's your opinion of where it starts, but I think what some of us also agree that it starts within, that we all can lead by example.
Well, and also the president's not here to accept that invitation, right? Once again, I really hope
So
that.
trustee McKay, I will have coffee with you.
Okay, so I have agreement that everybody, David, would you meet?
I feel very pressured by this conversation. I feel that, I feel pressured by the proposal to do this. I feel pressured by this conversation. I feel pressured by your invitation to coffee. I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm,
Well, please consider it, and if you change your mind, I didn't mean to pose it in a pressured way, but I just thought it would be some place to start.
I think, I have a very clear understanding of, what is going on, and the image of me that has been put forward by members of this board and associates, very clear. And I'm not, frankly, the first person who has ever come on this board who had a divergent view, who has been put through this particular mill. Okay, there's been prior board members who have told me it's exactly how I was treated. Okay, so most of the time it doesn't really bother me, and I got elected to this board for policy reasons, not for personal reasons. I wasn't looking for the cast of friends here. I was elected because I had a disagreement about the role of TIF and particular decisions made by prior boards with regard to TIF funding. Okay, and so for me, I'm pleased that some of the things that I ran on and that I've advocated for have actually happened, even though I've been in the minority. So, when I think about, do I want to run again? Yeah, I have to agree, Paul. I'm like, do I want to be dragged through the mud of this community for another 3 years? No, not really. But, but do I still care about the original reasons that I ran, that I think the policy reasons that I ran? Do I still care about those? Do I still feel like I would have a role in making sure that some of the things I care about in terms of local spending and our budget and our processes, yeah, I still care about those things. So I don't know. For me, it is not, it really is not about, personal issues. I mean, I don't like some of the ways that I feel like I've been treated personally, but it is not about personal issues for me. It is about particular policy issues and
process. I think that's great. I realize it's so helpful to hear, because I definitely think we have a lot more in common than probably has appeared, and so I'm just benefiting. I just think spending more time together might really help clear some things up, and I know that when I've gotten together with other trustees, just to get, obviously not to talk about policy things, because it's, you can't do that, but just to, I think I totally agree with that. I mean, and that's why I ran for re-election, was because I did still care, even though, yeah, being on the board during these times when we're making really tough decisions that aren't always popular. And we're trying, again, I agree with everything that you said, so I just would really appreciate that opportunity.
Two things. When you brought up the open records, I feel like I need to respond. Again, I'm gonna go back to process for a second.
Yeah,
There's a
minority.
minority.
Us again.
There, because, let me just
Okay.
respond.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
but let me respond, please. I think I expressed this to Ann in an email last week, so we are starting to communicate here. But it's very difficult when you want to propose something that staff's not recommending, okay? So regardless if you agree with it or not, we can't get even the research done. So I've become neurotic because everything that our values and policies aren't going to change. That's why we stated them clearly at the beginning, they're exactly the same. We don't all have to agree on that. But the problem is, if we ask for a direction, or make a budget amendment, we get no assistance on that. And I get it. And this is politics. But that's what is the time-consuming part, because you feel like you got to do all the research yourself. Because you don't have a staff memo that is recommending what you're about to suggest. You've got to make that memo yourself. And so to be in that minority opinion on policy is not an easy thing. I've never been there before. I usually am in the majority. And so this is a different take for me. As for the open records, it's just an extension of what I just said. I think I made it clear, we were friends at some point, personally. I think we met outside of here. I was having difficulty attaining public documents. And at some point, after 6.5, 7 months, if the village manager won't give you a document from his desk, you can't access it anyway. And so we begged him. Nobody knows the other conversations because it wasn't a board issue. Now it is a personal elected official issue. I want information that's should be publicly available because it's available to our village manager, and please send it over. And if we can't get it after, we would call him and say, please, we don't want to have to do it a different way. Can we just have the
And
document?
this is why we need to discuss these things, because this could have been something that we talked about at the board, and we as a full board could have put the pressure on, or if our village manager isn't, or any staff member is not doing the job that they need to do, the rest of the board really needs to know.
Well,
I don't think we have an agreement of what that was.
To me, and I've stated this before, the main issue I have with this board is there's this constant confusion of what is a policy issue that is appropriate for the board and what is operations that we should not be getting into. And, for example, this issue about snow and where we store snow. I mean, Leanne was here saying the board directed me to move snow from the central business district to Wilson Drive. And it's like, okay, then I think that is a board issue. So, but then, we say, okay, well, we need some information from staff. And the type of information we get from staff is, I talked to the county and they won't let us dump it in Estabrook Park. I mean, that's her alternative. So, again, like we're in the position, Allison says, well, what about a snow melter? I mean, I do not see, and I mean, that process has not completely gone, has not completely finished, but I just give it as an example of, are we going to ever get an alternative that is addressing the policy issue, that allows us to make an informed policy issue, a policy decision? So, and I know when we had the village manager candidates, many of them said after meeting with department heads, you guys have a problem with your staff. Staff doesn't want to deal with you, staff doesn't want to present to you, there's something going on between you and staff. And I think there is.
About us, I'm sorry. When
Some
you say you guys have
The
a.
board.
Oh, the board,
The
okay.
board, it's not
That's what I
just
meant,
between the board, it's between us and staff. And I feel and have felt frustrated, and the questions of saying to the former village manager, we had certain questions about issues that had gone on before, and we're not getting, we're not even as elected officials able to get public documents. Again, there is a question of how can we as policymakers make policy, and how do we find that balance with staff? Like, to
Well, I
me, that has
think you
been one of the more
disagree.
frustrating issues.
And I think the problem is, as a board, we have tried the board method and consistently have always been outvoted on process things. I'm not talking about
Who's
issues
we?
and policies, myself, and maybe, well, I usually get a second from trustee Menta, but, so like, you know, how, meeting minutes, I finally got it on there, but, or how as a chair, I mean, how as a chair, how do you get things on your committee calendar? And what's the rights of a chair? I've asked that since the day I walked in. And so the reason we don't necessarily get board agreement on those is because you may, you know, the majority of the board may not think that's in the realm of a policymaker. You shouldn't need all those documents. Okay, so then what are we left to do besides use our constitutional right to get the document through open records request? I'm just saying in general, the board doesn't always vote, even though we have a right to get those documents, the board may not think you should be reviewing them.
Okay, and
Does that
I'm
make
just
sense?
going back, I hear a lot of frustration in this room, and I get it, that, you know, and this is exactly why I think we need to have a professional help us